Right under the glaring lights of the United States House of Representatives, the most loyal allies of Donald Trump are actively throwing him under the bus. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and Central Intelligence Agency Director John Ratcliffe sat directly before lawmakers and completely washed their hands of the devastating military conflict known as Operation Epic Fury. When pressed to provide concrete evidence that Iran actually posed an immediate, imminent threat to the United States homeland, these top officials did not defend the commander-in-chief. Instead, they stonewalled the committee. They stated flatly that they merely provide raw data, and the absolute sole responsibility for determining an imminent threat, and subsequently launching a war, rests entirely on the shoulders of Donald Trump. The formidable shield of loyalty has shattered on live television. The intelligence community is firmly refusing to take the fall for a war strategy that has already cost precious American lives. They are meticulously creating an undeniable legal and political firewall between their own departments and the Oval Office. The sheer panic in the hearing room is palpable as high-ranking officials strategically scramble to save their own political careers while leaving the president to face the devastating global and domestic fallout entirely alone. The betrayal is absolute, and the political foundation of the administration is fracturing from the inside out in real time. Welcome to United States News Daily. I am here to bring you the unvarnished truth behind the political curtain. If you find this deep dive insightful and want to stay ahead of the rapidly shifting power dynamics in Washington, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on the notification bell so we can continue uncovering the truth together. Deep inside the Make America Great Again movement, a massive ideological earthquake is tearing the political faction apart from the inside out. The sudden and explosive resignation of Joe Kent is not just a standard administrative departure. He was the second in command at the office of the Director of National Intelligence. He was a pure, unyielding loyalist to the America First agenda. His immediate exit, accompanied by a blistering public declaration, exposes a profound and deeply concerning internal war happening right now within the highest levels of the national security apparatus. Kent did not leave his powerful position quietly. He authored a devastating written assessment of the current foreign policy strategy. He explicitly stated that high-ranking Israeli officials working in strict coordination with influential members of the American media executed a deliberate and highly effective misinformation campaign. The ultimate goal of this coordinated effort, according to the former deputy director, was to completely manipulate the commander-in-chief into launching a catastrophic military conflict. Kent drew a direct and chilling parallel to the disastrous invasion of Iraq, arguing that the exact same tactics of deception and manipulation are being actively deployed right now to drag the United States military into an unwinnable quagmire in the Middle East. The core assertion of this resignation statement is that the President of the United States was actively deceived into believing the sovereign nation of Iran posed a completely fabricated imminent threat. The narrative, pushed heavily by foreign allies and hawkish media figures, created an impenetrable echo chamber. This echo chamber completely isolated the President from objective and factual intelligence assessments. Kent argues that the promise of a swift and easy military victory was a complete fabrication and a deliberate lie designed specifically to bypass standard national security protocols and force an immediate preemptive strike. He claims the intelligence was shaped to fit a predetermined outcome desired by foreign leaders rather than protecting the homeland. During the intense congressional hearing, Representative Elise Stefanik brought this explosive document directly to the attention of Director Tulsi Gabbard. Stefanik, clearly furious about the severe allegations leveled against a close allied nation, demanded to know if the director agreed with her former deputy. This moment was the ultimate political trap. Gabbard built her entire public reputation and political brand on strictly opposing forever wars and foreign interventions in the Middle East. Now she sits at the head of the intelligence apparatus, overseeing exactly that kind of devastating regional war. When confronted with the searing words of her hand-picked subordinate, Gabbard visibly froze. Her response was a complete masterclass in political evasion and extreme physical discomfort. She stammered and deflected, stating only that her former deputy said a lot of things in his letter. She completely avoided a direct confirmation or denial of the core accusation regarding foreign manipulation. Instead, she retreated behind a flimsy bureaucratic shield, claiming her agency merely provides basic intelligence assessments, and that the president alone makes his own decisions based on whatever information he chooses to believe. Watching her physical reactions during this specific exchange reveals a profound internal panic. When confronted with the stark reality of the manipulation, her usual confident posture entirely collapsed. She refused to maintain direct eye contact with the inquiring representative during the most aggressive moments of the questioning. Her hesitation was incredibly loud. By refusing to condemn the letter outright, she signaled a quiet and tacit acknowledgement of the chaos and manipulation described by her former colleague. Yet by refusing to openly endorse the warnings, she desperately tried to protect her current powerful position within the cabinet. She is hopelessly caught between her long-standing anti-war principles and her current duty to an administration that is actively bombing another sovereign nation. This singular exchange reveals that the American intelligence community is deeply and dangerously fractured. The very individuals tasked with providing clear and objective data to the highest office in the land are currently battling over whether that data is being actively manipulated by foreign powers. If a top-tier official firmly believes the president is being played as a pawn and the director of national intelligence cannot categorically deny that horrifying accusation under oath, then the entire justification for the ongoing military campaign completely crumbles. The narrative instantly shifts away from a necessary defensive measure against an imminent danger. It transforms into a terrifying scenario where American military might and precious American lives are being sacrificed to serve foreign geopolitical interests through a coordinated campaign of deception and manipulation. The unified front is completely gone and the truth is bleeding out onto the congressional floor. The entire legal justification for launching a preemptive military strike without congressional approval rests entirely on a single word. That word is imminent. Under the constitutional framework of the United States, an executive leader cannot simply declare war because a foreign adversary has been hostile for 4 decades. The danger must be immediate. It must be about to happen right at this very second. Yet during this explosive hearing, the fundamental pillar supporting this massive military operation completely disintegrated under basic questioning. Representative Carson directly confronted the directors with the heavy toll of this conflict. He specifically invoked the memory of 13 brave service members who have already perished in this newly ignited war, including a captain from his home state of Indiana. His question was not complex or layered in political nuance. He asked a straightforward yes or no question, demanding to know if there was any concrete evidence whatsoever that the foreign adversary intended to conduct a preemptive attack on the United States prior to the outbreak of hostilities. The room fell utterly silent, waiting for the intelligence chiefs to validate the sacrifice of those fallen soldiers with a definitive affirmative response. Instead of delivering a resounding yes, Director Tulsi Gabbard offered a masterclass in bureaucratic deflection. She claimed the answer needed to be reserved for a closed hearing. However, she immediately followed that excuse with a deeply alarming clarification. She stated that the intelligence community merely provides the baseline assessments of existing dangers. According to her sworn testimony, it is the president who is ultimately responsible for determining what constitutes an imminent threat and what actions must be taken. Pause right there and truly absorb the gravity of that specific phrasing. The highest-ranking intelligence official in the nation is openly admitting on camera that her department did not definitively conclude an attack was imminent. If the data clearly showed missiles fueling up and targeting American cities, she would have simply said yes. By explicitly stating that the president makes the determination of imminence, she is building an impenetrable legal wall between the analysts gathering the facts and the politician ordering the airstrikes. She is legally washing her hands of the bloodshed. She is telling the entire world that the intelligence community supplied raw data, and the executive branch independently spun that data into a justification for war. The interrogation grew even more intense when Representative Jason Crow took the microphone. As a former combat veteran who deeply understands the brutal reality of warfare, he refused to accept vague diplomatic answers. He pressed Gabbard relentlessly regarding the exact timing of the potential dangers. He asked if any intelligence products within the last 90 days showed imminence. Gabbard again deployed her rehearsed shield. She repeated that the imminent nature of a threat is determined by the president based on the totality of information. Crow pushed harder, demanding to know if any assessments showed attacks anticipated within a specific 3-month window. Gabbard called the question too simplistic, arguing it depended on various scenarios occurring or not occurring. When forced to address whether the assessment showed timelines for the threats, she finally conceded that timelines were involved. But she instantly retreated to her safety net, reiterating yet again that the determination of imminence belongs solely to the executive leader. Representative Crow forcefully concluded his questioning by stating the absolute bottom line. There was no imminence provided in the intelligence reports, and no product exists that shows an immediate danger. The intelligence directors offered zero pushback to this devastating summary. This sequence is absolutely terrifying when you break down the constitutional implications. If the commander-in-chief can simply look at a standard regional threat assessment and unilaterally declare the danger is imminent no matter what the intelligence experts actually conclude, then the entire advisory apparatus is completely pointless. Representative Gomez highlighted this exact terrifying reality later in the session. He pointed out that if the executive leader can determine the nature of a threat entirely independent of the objective data provided by the intelligence community, then a functional dictatorship has effectively been established regarding foreign policy. The president could theoretically wake up tomorrow, declare a completely different global superpower, an imminent threat, and launch a devastating strike regardless of what the Central Intelligence Agency reports. The officials sitting at that witness table know precisely what they are doing. They are career professionals who understand the incredible weight of congressional testimony. By repeatedly throwing the ultimate responsibility back onto the Oval Office, they are signaling a massive internal fracture. They are quietly shouting to the legislative branch that they did not authorize the narrative being sold to the American public. The administration constructed a narrative of immediate danger to justify a sprawling military campaign, but the people who actually collect the secrets are refusing to validate that specific storyline. The central justification for dropping bombs has evaporated, leaving nothing but executive overreach and severe political hubris. The geopolitical steering wheel has been entirely hijacked. The administration proudly projects an image of absolute global dominance, yet the sworn testimony cascading from the congressional hearing room paints a chillingly different reality. The United States is actively fighting a brutal war in the Middle East, yet the highest intelligence officials cannot even confirm if the primary ally in this conflict is actually listening to the president. The traditional power dynamic is completely inverted. The supposed junior partner is aggressively dictating the terms of engagement, while the superpower absorbs the immense physical and economic blows. Representative Joaquin Castro exposed this terrifying strategic void with surgical precision. He completely bypassed the usual diplomatic pleasantries and aimed his questioning directly at the fragile core of the military alliance. He demanded to know exactly why the Israeli government made the calculated decision to execute military strikes against Iranian energy infrastructure. This was not a random or accidental target. The President of the United States had explicitly and publicly called for those exact facilities to remain strictly off-limits. The Commander-in-Chief drew a clear red line to prevent a catastrophic global economic spiral and keep the conflict contained. The allied nation looked directly at that red line and stepped right over it without hesitation. When asked to explain this blatant defiance, the response from the intelligence table was breathtakingly hollow. Director Tulsi Gabbard looked at the congressional panel and flatly admitted she had absolutely no answer. She confessed she was not privy to any of the internal deliberations or the strategic calculus that went into launching those specific infrastructure attacks. The American intelligence apparatus, funded by billions of taxpayer dollars, was sitting entirely blind in the passenger seat. Gabbard retreated rapidly behind the excuse that her agencies merely provide daily assessments of events after they occur. They are completely locked out of the operational planning of the very ally they are ostensibly protecting and fighting alongside. Castro refused to let the glaring evasion stand unchallenged. He pressed the issue further, highlighting the absolute absurdity of the situation. The United States is officially at war. American resources are draining rapidly. Yet the intelligence chiefs claim they cannot speak for the allied nation, dragging them deeper into the fire. The frustration in the room reached a boiling point before the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, John Ratcliffe, delivered a statement that should completely shatter any remaining illusion of a unified coalition. Ratcliffe attempted to clarify the official American military goals for the ongoing operation. He stated firmly that the objectives of the president absolutely did not include regime change within the hostile nation. However, he immediately followed that definitive statement with a massive, world-altering caveat. He casually admitted on the record that the American objective might be entirely different from the actual objectives of the Israeli government. Digest the sheer magnitude of that specific admission. The Central Intelligence Agency is openly acknowledging to the legislative branch that the United States and its primary ally are fighting the exact same war with fundamentally incompatible end goals. The American administration is allegedly trying to contain a regional threat without entirely collapsing a foreign government. Meanwhile, the allied nation might be actively trying to topple that exact same government, a radical move that would guarantee decades of chaotic, bloody regional instability and endless American involvement. This disjointed reality leads inevitably to the most agonizing and enraging question of the entire military campaign. If the United States government cannot control the tactical decisions of its closest ally, and if that ally is actively ignoring direct presidential requests to avoid critical infrastructure, why are American service members being deployed into the crosshairs? Why is the American homeland absorbing the immense risk of a broader global conflict if the leadership in Washington is not the one actually calling the shots on the battlefield? The administration sold this military operation to the voting public as a necessary and strictly controlled defense of American interests. But the testimony reveals a profound surrender of American strategic autonomy. The intelligence heads essentially testified that the administration is writing a blank check for a foreign war machine. They are funding the operations, providing the massive diplomatic cover, and sacrificing their own military personnel, all while admitting they have zero control over the direction of the conflict. The ally is striking forbidden targets, pursuing entirely different and far more dangerous objectives, and keeping the American intelligence community completely in the dark regarding their next strategic move. It is a stunning abdication of presidential authority. The leader of the free world has been reduced to a mere spectator in his own war, watching helplessly as another sovereign nation dictates the ultimate fate of American soldiers and the stability of the entire global economy. Beyond the immediate loss of life on the battlefield lies a silent creeping catastrophe deliberately designed to shatter the domestic economy. The crosshairs are locked directly on the Strait of Hormuz. This incredibly narrow maritime passage serves as the absolute jugular vein for global energy supplies. Representative Steve Cohen pulled back the curtain on a terrifying reality during his rigorous cross-examination of the intelligence directors. He quoted directly from an official unclassified threat assessment warning that the foreign adversary possesses massive conventional forces capable of inflicting devastating damage to commercial shipping lanes. When pressed on whether those capabilities still exist, Director Tulsi Gabbard offered a deeply unsettling confirmation. While claiming their broader military forces were degraded, she openly admitted the hostile nation firmly retains the means to threaten vital maritime passage using naval mines and sophisticated anti-ship missiles. The line of questioning rapidly shifted from military tactics to sheer financial survival for everyday citizens. Representative Josh Gottheimer demanded to know if the executive branch received explicit warnings regarding the catastrophic downstream effects of igniting a major regional conflict. He specifically highlighted the severe disruptions to the global supply chain and the inevitable skyrocketing cost of basic energy resources. The responses from the witness table confirmed the absolute worst fears of the American public. The intelligence community, acting in tandem with the Department of Energy, thoroughly briefed the Oval Office on the severe financial blowback long before the first bombs were dropped. They laid out precise economic models where the price of crude oil could violently surge toward $120 a barrel, effectively crippling the purchasing power of the working class. Knowing a massive financial hurricane is approaching is entirely different from actually boarding up the windows. The administration possessed detailed classified knowledge that launching an aggressive military campaign would predictably result in extreme economic retaliation. Yet when Representative Cohen asked the most logical question of the entire congressional hearing, he was met with nothing but bureaucratic stone walls. If the commander-in-chief was explicitly briefed that the critical maritime straits could be shut down, triggering a massive global financial crisis, why were absolutely no preemptive actions taken to strengthen defenses around that specific waterway? The answer provided was not a defense of strategic military planning. Gabbard merely repeated her heavily rehearsed escape clause, stating the president is ultimately responsible for making decisions based on the totality of available intelligence. The leader of the free world looked directly at a predicted economic disaster and chose to roll the dice anyway. Financial ruin is only half of this apocalyptic executive gamble. The operational strikes executed in the region successfully eliminated the supreme leader of the hostile nation. However, decapitating a regime does not erase the underlying ideology. It simply clears a path for a potentially much more volatile successor. The congressional panel zeroed in on the terrifying void of leadership currently plunging the foreign adversary into pure internal chaos. The deceased leader is expected to be replaced by his son, a man widely recognized by the global intelligence community as a severe hardliner intimately tied to the most brutal and aggressive factions of the Revolutionary Guard forces. Representative Jason Crow meticulously unraveled the most dangerous thread of this entire geopolitical crisis. For nearly 2 decades, a religious decree issued by the former Supreme Leader explicitly banned the development of nuclear weapons. Crow forced the intelligence directors to publicly admit a staggering strategic failure regarding this specific issue. When asked if that critical nuclear ban remains in place under the chaotic new leadership, the response was a chilling admission of total ignorance. The intelligence community possesses absolutely zero reporting confirming the current status of the weapons ban. They do not even know who is actually making the final decisions in the hostile capital because the presumed successor was severely injured in the recent Allied strikes. The stunning climax of this specific exchange left the hearing room in a state of complete disbelief. Crow secured a devastating admission on the public record that American intelligence is significantly less certain of the intentions and capabilities of the foreign adversary today than they were 60 days ago. The preemptive military strikes did not neutralize a ticking time bomb, they merely smashed the face of the clock. The administration traded a contained, although tense geopolitical standoff for a completely unpredictable succession crisis involving a rapidly radicalizing power structure. The Oval Office was fully briefed that this military adventurism would detonate the global energy market and potentially awaken a dormant nuclear weapons program. The ultimate tragedy revealed under oath is that the intelligence apparatus provided every necessary warning sign, and the chief executive simply chose to ignore the flashing red lights entirely. The grand illusion has officially collapsed. The facade of a unified, strategic, and entirely necessary military operation has been completely demolished right on the congressional floor. We have just witnessed an unprecedented political exodus taking place in broad daylight. The very officials handpicked to execute the primary national agenda are actively running for the exits, legally and publicly washing their hands of a disastrous overseas conflict. They sat under the heavy weight of a sworn oath and explicitly confirmed that no intelligence product ever proved an immediate, impending danger to the homeland. The foundational justification for plunging the nation into warfare was effectively a complete fabrication, a narrative spun entirely within the executive branch while the intelligence community deliberately stepped back. Furthermore, the current administration willingly walked into a catastrophic economic trap with their eyes wide open. They were fully and thoroughly briefed that this specific military adventurism would severely disrupt global supply chains and send basic energy prices absolutely soaring, directly punishing the working class of this country. They were explicitly warned about the terrifying nuclear implications of destabilizing the hostile region, yet they proceeded anyway, seemingly surrendering strategic control to a foreign ally who actively refuses to listen to diplomatic boundaries. The American people, and most importantly, the grieving families of the brave service members who have already made the ultimate sacrifice in this completely avoidable conflict, deserve absolute transparency. The individuals pulling the massive levers of power cannot hide behind closed-door intelligence hearings or complex bureaucratic doublespeak any longer. They owe it to every single citizen to stand before the entire nation on live broadcast television and clearly explain exactly why American blood and national treasure are being drained for a war lacking both basic justification and a coherent endgame. The mainstream political narrative is rapidly fracturing, and the raw truth is finally bleeding through the cracks. However, exposing this monumental level of political betrayal requires a massive, collective effort from awake citizens. If this detailed breakdown opened your eyes to the harsh reality of what is actually happening in the Capitol, make your voice heard right now. Share this broadcast directly with your family members and your close friends who desperately need to hear the unvarnished truth. Post this deep dive across all of your personal social media networks to break straight through the restrictive algorithmic echo chambers. What do you truly believe is the real, hidden motivation behind this devastating military campaign? Do you firmly think the executive leader is being actively manipulated by foreign interests? Or is this a calculated, deliberate power grab? Drop your completely unvarnished opinions down in the comments section below so we can continue this vital national conversation together. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss an urgent update. We will never stop holding the powerful accountable. Thank you for tuning in to United States News Daily.